Welcome to Sweetwater, a podcast in partnership with the Kind community where we discuss small and simple acts of kindness and recognize them as extraordinary. I am your host, Jenny West, and every month I will be talking with an amazing woman about the ripple effects of kindness and how they create the fabric of our community. We hope that through each episode, my guests and those listening or watching will recognize the simple acts of kindness are the threads that strengthen, uplift, and empower our community. Laura, welcome back. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. A little nervous, but excited.
It is a little nerve-wracking, but it will be fun, I promise. Well, I was so appreciative of you and Rainbow for doing the initial podcast so we could explain why we were doing this. And I'm really honored to have you here today to focus on you.
Oh, thank you.
I know we gave our viewers and our listeners a little bit of flavor of who you are, but I thought we could just spend a couple minutes introducing you, letting our viewers know a little bit more about you, and then we can kind of dive in.
Okay.
So let me say what I know about you. What I am so appreciative about partnering with the Kind community is it's given me the opportunity to meet so many incredible women, of which you are one, and just learn about all of the amazing aspects of your life. So this is what I know about you, and then I'll let you fill in the blanks. You are the board president of Kind Community. You are the vice president of finance for the Girl Scouts. You serve on the board of the Zoo Idaho. You were a gymnast, which is super cool. And you have ran how many marathons?
20.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
You are a wife. You are a stepmother. You are an incredible friend, daughter. What have I left out? What more do you want people to know about you?
I don't know. I think when I was thinking about today, I was thinking about things that define you. So when I was younger, I started gymnastics when I was 7, and I did it until I was 21,
Wow.
So through college. And so my whole life, that whole part of my life, I defined myself as a gymnast. And then after college, a few years after college, I started marathoning, and I defined myself as a runner, and then life changes, and, now I'm a wife and a stepmom to some amazing kids and a new grandma. And
Congratulations.
Well, kind of new. 3. He's 3.
Still, that's new.
And I'm working on my MBA at ISU, so I have 2 classes left. My husband calls it my hobby.
That's a lot.
He teases me the other day. I was saying something about my grades. And I said, yeah, I don't want to get a B. And he's like, why do you care about your grades at this point? And I said, don't you know me? I'm going to, try as hard as I can with everything that I do. Or, if it's important to me, I'm going all in. So
I love that. And I will also add that I think you have a very wicked sense of humor. I love it. As we've been talking over the past few months, that is something that I definitely appreciate about you, is your sense of humor. So
thank you.
Well, I thought maybe what we could do today is just talk about perhaps running a marathon. And we could utilize that as our example of the somewhat small steps that you had to do, sometimes probably literally, to get to that end of the marathon. But just the type of training that you would do to be successful in completing a marathon. So what is that like? Because I have never run a marathon. I know I never will run a marathon, but I am totally amazed by people who do.
So I think, what a lot of people don't realize with marathoning is you start small. So you train over the course of 4 or 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
And you start with, you're running 3 to 5 days a week. And you start with your long run being 6 miles.
Oh, wow.
And you build up over the course of those months to a 20-mile run, typically, in most marathon training programs, as your long run. And so you're doing that in baby steps every week. You're increasing, usually you'll go up a mile a week, and then you'll have a back off week and keep moving up. So you're getting there in baby steps, and you don't do 26 miles before the marathon. Typically it's 20
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of training programs,
Right.
the ones I did anyways. So then come marathon day, you've got that extra 6.2 miles that you're trying to get to. So you're building up little by little. I always trained with the Chicago Area Runners Association, or I did the Leukemia Lymphoma Society's team in training for a few years. So I trained with groups of people and made great friendships with the people. And you do a lot of bonding when you're out running for a few hours and you're all suffering together. And so that's just kind of the baby. I think a lot of people don't realize that it's so doable. But I always say the marathon is your heart and your head over your body. It's really overcoming that desire to quit.
Yes. Which for me would be mile 3.
And finding that inner strength to just push a little harder. And I think that translates into other things that you do. And I think that starts to, as I said, defining yourself as different things throughout your life, is just that push to get to the finish line, because there's also nothing like crossing that finish line.
I bet. What is it like to cross the finish line? How does it make you feel?
That's a great question. A good combination of relief, pride, thankful for people that helped you get there, supported your training, supported, the group. If, a lot of times I ran with a group, so I crossed with people that I spent the summer training with. So really, it's just such an incredible feeling of accomplishment, to say I did that, and that not everybody can do that. And I did that because I put in the work to make that happen.
I love that. Thank you. Had you always been a runner, or when did you decide to start running marathons?
So, as I said, I was a gymnast. I did it through college. When I think about, you were talking about, the baby steps to get there, I started gymnastics when I was 7. And I did it till I was 21. And when I started, I thought, I'm going to be an Olympic gymnast. That's what every young gymnast wants to do. And there came a point that I said, yeah, that's probably not realistic. So I worked to get an athletic scholarship. And so most of my growing up years, I was working towards something. I always say about gymnastics, too, the interesting thing is you put in all these hours in the gym, but you really compete for about 5 minutes.
That's true.
And so I think with marathoning, I graduated college and started working and doing things, and I just never had that thing that I was always working for in the background. And I met someone who ran marathons, and I was dating him. And he's like, I ran with him a couple times, and he said, you should try it. I bet you could do it. And so I did one. And then I broke up with the guy. And my mom said to me, you'll never run another marathon again.
Challenge accepted.
And so exactly, I was like, oh yeah, watch me. So I got a flyer in the mail for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society's team in training, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a group that raises money for leukemia for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society for research and other things. And as a runner, you say, I'm going to do this, and I'm committed to raising X amount of dollars. And then you do the marathon. It usually, it might include, you'll get a free entry into the marathon or that sort of thing. And so I went to this information session and sat at this table with people I didn't know. And this woman sitting across from me after they did their spiel looked at me and she said, we should do this. Didn't know her, And so we signed up. And
Well, how interesting that it was one person that you didn't know just said, however many words that is, let's do this. And it was that comment that helped you to do your next marathon.
Yep. Yeah, and she also went on and did several marathons too. But yeah, and part of it was, like I said, my mom saying I did it because of this guy. And I'm like, oh, no, no. You don't do marathons for other people. You need that internal
Right.
push or
Strength.
whatever. Yeah.
So, how do you think about mile 2 versus mile 23 when you're in the marathon?
Mile 2, you're like, this is great. I did a lot of Chicago marathons. So there's 40,000 runners.
Oh, wow.
So at mile 2, you're in wall to wall people. By mile 23, you're all spread out. And, the beginning is all the excitement. The end is how deep do I need to dig to finish this?
Right. And then how did the training prepare you for that mile 23?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that when you get into those higher miles, we were talking about it the other day. One of the neighborhoods that we pass in the marathon at about mile 18, we were just talking about, oh, that's mile 18-ish. You start to you have to dig deep into whatever's inside of you to pull out that strength to finish. Because again, it's your heart and your head over your body. And by the time you get to mile 3, you want to sit down. Post marathon, I will look at pavement and be like, oh, my feet hurt. But it's really just digging deep into whatever you have inside of you that can push you. And for me, I think about mile 18, in the Chicago Marathon, the years I ran it, was around UIC, University of Illinois in Chicago, which is where I went to college. And I did gymnastics there. So when I would run past there, I would think about, you could do this. Think of all those hours you spent down the block in the gym.
Right.
So you just, and your mind, you probably lose it a little. I ran with one of my really good friends, Barb, and a few of the marathons, and she would start telling stories in those late miles, like dumb, silly,
Just to get you through it.
Yeah, for both of us, So you get playing, and your mind wanders, and the crowds pull you. The water stops. Sometimes it's, can I just get to the next water stop? If I get to the water stop, I can walk for a minute because I can
drink something.
Walk to drink.
Yeah. I think there's so many great parallels of training for a marathon and what you've accomplished in your life, thinking about your MBA program. I just think it sets you up so well for any trial, anything that you need motivation to complete, or just a great approach to life, and especially to kindness, because there are so many little things that build up to just making you great, helping others see their potential. So I think it's such an interesting parallel.
Oh, thank you.
And with that, maybe we can shift gears a little bit. I'd love to know just 2 or 3 examples of acts of kindness that you've experienced that you would want to share and how they impacted you.
So one of the big things that stands out is back when I was younger, I was moving. I sold my condo. I was moving into a new place. And that my brother-in-law was supposed to help me with the move. And that morning, his brother had a motorcycle accident. Wow. So he wasn't able to help. And I had to be out of my place. And so I called my friend Chris and said, hey, Mike's brother had an accident. I have no one to help me. I ended up having my friends and their husbands come and help. And I remember distinctly driving leaving, and I had a caravan of, they had pickup trucks and, SUVs or what, all my stuff. But I had like 4 or 5 cars following me. And I looked back in my window and I got all teary-eyed because I was like, these friends stepped up for me. And after we unpacked everything, I took everyone to McDonald's. And I was sitting with my mom because my mom was there too. And she looked at me and she said, "It's gonna make me cry."
That's okay.
She said, "You have some really good friends, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, Mom, that's not an accident." And it just the fact that they stepped up like that. They probably don't even know that meant so much to me. The other thing I think about when I was trying to think of some examples is my husband every day not only makes me feel beautiful and loved, but like Monday I had a meeting, a kind meeting, and then I had class right away that night, and so I knew I wasn't going to have time to eat dinner, and I was like, oh, well, I'm going to eat at 8 o'clock at night or whatever, and I came home because he knew what time I was coming home, and he had made a calzone.
Aw.
And put it on a plate and put it on my desk and got me some water and, just simple and small, but I was like, he goes, you can eat dinner when you're on your class, because I've taken online class, and I just an example of the hundreds, probably thousands of nice things he has done for me, and I always just think I only hope I give that back.
Oh, you do, people. And I can't wait to share it with you. I think those are incredible examples. It makes me reflect on the moves we've had, like from Portland to Pocatello. And as you said, like we had to do a big move in a short amount of time. And I had, like, my friend Bethany, who has been on a previous episode of the podcast, came and packed my entire pantry while I ran personal errands. And like, I can't believe that she gave up basically a whole day of her life to pack my pantry. And it was like the one thing I really didn't want to do. And not only did she pack it, but she organized it and she went through things. And it was the most incredible gift, and it was so moving to me that she's such a good friend that she would do that. And, we had another good friend, her mom Liz came and helped us pack our kitchen. And until late into the night. And we had so many people show up for us. And then even when we moved, recently to a new house in Pocatello, we had my son's baseball coaches and their children show up. And, Matt's boss and his partner Cherise came. And it was just so overwhelming to me how people show up for you when you really need them. And moving is like the least fun activity in the entire world, I think. And to see people give their time, and to do it happily and make it seem sort of fun and pass the time, like those were incredible gifts for us too.
I had another, when we moved to Pocatello, my husband came out about a month before me, so I was doing the wrap up of packing the house, and then the movers came. And my friend Darlene was like, I'm not going to leave you there alone when the movers are there. So she came and spent the day, and we laughed, and
I know, it turns into like a really good bonding experience, even though you're doing like the most annoying thing. It's like running the marathon almost, right?
Right.
When you're packing up a house, you have to do every room, or putting things in boxes. And then finally, after that, what seems more like 36 miles when you're packing, you're done.
Or you get my friend Chris, and that other time I moved, she found I had a big scrunchie.
I think those might be cool again, by the way.
Yeah, right. But this was after we had worn them for a Halloween costume, and I still had it, tucked in somewhere. And she pulled it out, and she's like, "Why do you still have this?" And we just, we laughed our butts off.
I know. Those are the moments that it creates, which I appreciate. Well, are you ready to hear all the incredible things about you?
Oh, God.
I always tell people I love being on this side to share them because I have the same visceral reaction. If someone were to ask me that, I'd be like, ooh, I don't know what my kids or my husband or my friends will say. Like, this is kind of scary. But it honestly is the most beautiful part of this entire process for me. Just you get to learn how the parts of you that you probably just do every day without taking notice have this profound impact on the people around you. And it makes me teary as well. So be prepared. But first and foremost, I really want you to know how much you are loved and valued by your friends and family. It's incredible to me. Everyone that I talked to teared up when they talked about you in the best possible way. And it was really, really touching. And I just want to remind you, our listeners, those watching, that I am barely scratching the surface when I'm talking to like, 3 or 4 people in your life. So it's just this really unique microcosm. And so if I had unlimited time, and I could talk to more people in your life, I cannot even imagine how much more powerful this would be. But just keep in mind as we talk through this and you get to hear these things just from, 3 people, how incredible this is. So just keep that in your mind. So what I have learned about you thus far is that you are very, very good about being intentional with your time. And I know that kind of sounds silly, but it really relates back to probably being a gymnast, training for marathons. But the way that you utilize your time and you dedicate it to the people around you, they greatly appreciate. I mean, and it does sound very simple, but that's why I was curious when I asked you about finishing a marathon, how that made you feel, because you've put in a lot of time. And so all of those great adjectives that you described is exactly how you're making people feel when you freely give your time to them. In an intentional way, let me just add, because I think that's super important. So some of the examples that were shared is that I had the opportunity to talk to your stepdaughter, Jackie. And she says every time she comes to visit you, you take time off of work, you plan activities that she would like to do, and you spend one-on-one time with her. And it's not rushed. You don't say, oh, I have 20 minutes here, or we can do this, and then I have to, go on to this other activity. It's this dedicated time where you get to talk to her and just be with her. And that meant so much to her and continues, to mean a lot to her in these visits, which I just think is really special. And then Chris, your best friend, told multiple stories of how you have dedicated time to her throughout your friendship. And what I loved is she went back to elementary school where she said she wasn't that great at math. Clearly, you're a numbers person. But she said every day after school, you would come and you would help her with her math homework, and sit and talk her through it. And just, I mean, clearly we're all done with elementary school, but that has still stuck with her, that you took the time to sit and do that. Another example that she gave, is now that you're in Pocatello and your friends are in Chicago, that you'll come to visit during the holidays. And clearly you have a lot of competing elements for your time while you're there, but you always ensure that you go to your friend's Christmas party and that you get to see them and that you spend the time and that you're very intentional about carving that out so that you can see them and catch up. And I'm sure to you, you're like, yeah, I'm going to a party. Get to see my friends. But they all noticed that, you had a lot of people to see and a lot of things to do in a short amount of time, and you dedicated that time to them. And then both your husband and Chris described examples of the time you spent caring for your mom before she passed away. And they were both in awe of your tenderness and your concern that you did everything that you could to improve your mom's life right until the end. And taking care of an ailing parent is a lot of time, and it is very intentional. And even your stepdaughter, Jackie, commented on it, of just the amount of time and the energy that you put into that relationship, of just ensuring that you did everything that you could to make her happy. I think you did more than try. I think you accomplished it. And I think if there's anything that is probably similar to a marathon, it's running that race as you're trying to help a parent through that time. And so I can only imagine, if I could have a seance and talk to your mom just to lighten it up for you, how proud she probably is of that time that she got to have with you.
I know that.
So There's just so many incredible examples. I think another one that everyone mentioned was one thing we forgot to mention about all of your incredible qualities is that you spent time as a teacher
I did.
and you taught in an underserved area within Chicago. And I think, as it was described to me, it was challenging at times. And I'm sure, as in a marathon, there were multiple mile points where you wanted to give up and quit, but you didn't. And one of the comments that was made was you kept going because you wanted to be the stability in children's lives and in their school experience, and that you dedicated the time, and that these kids knew that you cared and that you were someone that they could always turn to. And I think that that is such a remarkable theme throughout your life. And I'm just curious, like, as I'm mentioning this to you, and I know it's a lot to take in, but are you does that just come naturally to you? Are you that purposeful about how you spend your time and how you think about it?
I guess I never thought of it being intentional with my time, but rather making time for what's important
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that the people around me know that I care and that they're important. A lot of people in my life make me feel important to them. And so I often wonder, am I giving that back? I want to be able to give that back.
Well, I think I can definitely say that you are.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, other things that were mentioned is that you always take time to send cards to your family and your friends. Jackie loves it that you bring lemon bars when you come to visit, or a treat that she likes. She mentioned that a few times. And I just want you to know that, your people recognize the time that you spend with them and that it is greatly valued. And I think that's a sign of just being such a phenomenal person that people want and enjoy spending time with you.
Make me speechless.
Well, good, because the next thing that you're good at is listening. And I think this is something else that we all take for granted, to be a good listener. I think that's something that I've really tried to work on, because this was an element that was mentioned about a previous guest, and I had never really thought about how important it is to be an active listener and what it means to listen to someone. And I've actually really tried to apply it, especially now that I have a 13-year-old, in terms of, what do you want me to do in this situation? Do you want me just to listen? Do you need a solution? Like, what are you looking for me to do? So I've learned so much from our guests, and also from you in this. And in talking to Jackie and Chris, both mentioned that you check in on people and that you want to know how someone is really doing. Like, you're not just asking, like, hey, how are you? And you want the okay or I'm good and you move on. Like, you sincerely have a care for people. And if they want to share, you are willing to listen. But one of the things that Jackie mentioned that she really appreciated is, if it's not the right time for someone to share what's going on in their life related to that question, that you're very patient, that you don't make someone share something at an inappropriate time, that you just kind of wait for them to open up, even if it's in a different conversation. And that's very valued. And they both said that while you're listening, at the same time, you're trying to view or to see what they're describing through that person's lens or experience, and really trying to understand, why something is impacting them, either on a good side or on the bad side, or a difficult side, I should say. And Jackie described how much she appreciates that when she is sharing something about her life that you can relate to, that you're very truthful about your own life experiences. And this I really loved, that you offer it and you share it in a way that gives wisdom to her, both that when she was a teenager and today. And I thought that's really special to hear, from a daughter, a stepdaughter, that you take that time to really take in what someone is saying from their point of view, and then you offer up your experience. And she said, you're never doing it in a competing way, or I've, had this happen to me. It's always to show a solution, or that you have empathy. And I think to have someone, is in a parent child, say that you have wisdom, like, what an incredible compliment.
I'm, again, completely humbled and speechless, because that's what I want to give her. So I'm glad that she sees that.
Yeah, she appreciates it. And then Chris loves that she can laugh with you. And she's a phenomenal person. I loved everyone that I got to talk to in your life. I feel like, it's like this, my satellite of friends continues to grow as I talk to people's friends and family. And she was so much fun. And she said that sometimes when you talk, she'll be in the car and it's just a general catch up. And she appreciates that you are actually listening to what she's saying, even if it's just the mundane about life. Clearly, you spend a lot of time laughing, and that when she needs to call you and cry, you give her the space and you listen. And once again, you have empathy and you offer any type of support that you can that's appropriate. And I think that that's just incredible because there are some people that you call when you need someone to listen. I know which of my friends are really good listeners, and I know those that's not their special skill, and that's okay. But I think that's so incredible. And I think your ability to actively listen is why also people describe you as very genuine. And so I'm wondering, like, do you think of listening as a gift? Do you think that that relates to your genuineness as a person?
I think that I truly want to know what's going on and how can I help, and or how can we share? How can, with Chris, I mean, it's been a lifetime of laughter and tears. I mean, I've known her since I was 4. But I think, and through my life, I've tried to think, how can I listen better? Because we all get distracted. It's very easy when you're having a conversation to be either thinking about something else or just being distracted,
Yeah, you have your phone.
So I think just really paying attention to who you're with, what you're doing, adds to the conversation, putting the phone down, doing things like that, just really help you to have those relationships.
And I noticed that even when we sat down to talk about this partnership with the podcast, just how great you were of listening about what my intention was and how we could work together and how we could make this better. And it is a really good gift, and I greatly appreciate it, along with your friends and family.
Thank you.
And so I think, as I said, this has helped others see you as this very genuine person, and I'm sure everyone that's watching now can just see that. And I have a few favorite quotes from talking to your friends and family that I'm going to share with you. And one of them is from Jackie. And one of the first things she said about you when we were speaking is, Laura lights up the room. People like to talk to her because she is warm and inviting. And as I said, I think anyone who knows you, anyone who's just meeting you, from the last episode and carrying through to this one can just see that. Like, you do have this light that just exudes from you. And I think it's just all of those kind qualities that just automatically shine through. And so I think part of that light is that genuineness that you just can't hide, which I'm so grateful for.
I'm a bad liar. I can't.
That is a very good quality. Don't play poker.
No.
And it was also mentioned that you sincerely care for those that need help, as we've mentioned, and that you show genuine concern and love for those around you. Clearly, we've seen this in so many examples that have already been shared. I mean, time and time again, people kept coming back to just the love that you showed to your mom, the time you've spent teaching, how you show up to everyone. And something that I thought was really special is that your husband described your very first interactions with his kids. I mean, clearly, him finding someone to be with, having children, having someone that loved them as he did and genuinely wanted to be there with him was extremely important. And he said it was clear from your very first interaction with them that you had this genuine interest in his kids. And he said, and I agree with, and I'm curious if you do too, that kids are very good at detecting how kind or genuine someone's being. Like, they just have this innate
Absolutely.
kind of BS meter, and that his children could immediately see how much you cared for them and just how much that meant to him, because clearly, as I said, that was extremely important, and you easily hit that mark just by being you.
Aww.
And once again, I think coming back to kids, just being able to make children feel special that are or aren't or part of you, however that children come into your life, I think is such an incredible gift.
Oh,
So congratulations on that, because it's not easy. And another way your genuineness was described was through the relationship, and this is something that Jackie described, was the relationship that you have with Jackie's mom. And she just said that she so appreciated that you took the time to get to know her mom, and to want to have a good relationship with her, and that you'll sit with her at events, and that you have made things so easy for them. And she said that it's a testament to your character that you're just so open and welcoming to all. And because of this, everyone that I spoke to said that you're someone that they can always count on to be there.
I hope so. I truly hope so.
I can say that you are. In all of my experiences with you thus far, that is more than true. And then another one of my favorite quotes came from your husband, who said, and he was really emotional when he said this, is he said that you have just made him a better person. And like, what better compliment could you get than that?
It makes me a better person every day.
Well, I think you do the same for each other. So I love that you match.
I'm lucky. I'm very lucky.
You are. But so is he. And Jackie also said, and this was really powerful to me, these two things, that seeing the kindness that you show to others has influenced her interactions with people in general. That your ability to view each person as an individual whose life matters and is special has influenced her outlook on life.
My gosh.
And I think, as I said, that's incredibly powerful. And this is why I'm so grateful to have you as a new friend and to be a member of your community, that you're a member of our community. I think of this in relationship to your position in kind community, because if there's one takeaway that I hope you and that anyone watching and that our listeners have from today, is that you believe, and that I also believe, that everyone is special and everybody's life matters and everybody's contribution to society matters. And as we're talking about all of these acts of kindness that you may or may not realize that you're doing, have had this profound impact on the people around you. And so I hope that everyone listening or viewing knows that the gifts of kindness that they also give matter to the community and to those around us. And it's really what makes our community strong. So Thank you for being a part of that.
Thank you.
So I know, as I said, you're a really good listener, and this is hard to take in. But what about all of these things have really stuck out to you?
I guess the thing that stands out the most is that the people that you talk to feel seen and feel that I'm giving them the attention that I believe I'm giving them, because I get so much from them that I think I said it a little while ago, is just, I hope I'm giving that back and trying to empathize and be present for them, even in the chaos of life. So I think that, and that they can see that I'm being genuine with it. I'm not trying to be someone I'm not. I'm not trying to give them someone. With Jackie, I think too is, sometimes you say stuff to your kids and you wonder how it comes out on the other end.
Yeah.
And I am speechless about that it really has impacted her, and that she can see that I'm not trying to just dole out advice and say, hey, do this, or, that she's seeing it as what is intended, which is to support and help and nurture. So I'm speechless.
Yeah, I mean, the things, as I said, just that you do see that everyone matters, and that their contribution is so important. And I love that the word wisdom was applied to you, because I can see that in you. I love that the word light was used, because clearly everyone can see how the light shines from, just exudes from your body. And that, you make people better. And what a phenomenal words and compliments, and just a testament of the person that you are. And so once again, thank you for
you.
for being you and being a part of our community. And like, I can't think of anyone better to lead the kind community.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there you go. So one last thing that I always like to do to shift gears a lot is I love to read. I know many people like to read, listen to books, and I think a perfect example of something that seems small or simple, never want to equate that to the actual writing of a book, because that probably is like a marathon. But do you have a book that you want to recommend to our listeners?
I think I like to read just about anything by Jodi Picoult
Ooh, yes.
because she gives both sides of the story. She sees both sides, and she does a lot of research to do that.
Yes.
The other author that I found, and I know I'm not giving you a specific
No, that's okay.
book,
This is perfect.
but the other author that I found that I really like is Kristen Hanna. If you haven't read it, The Great Alone is an amazing book. And The Nightingale, both two amazing books. Again, those are a little more, she writes a little more historical fiction, which I also like because it ties in history, a little bit of history with perspective. So I guess that's where I actually just started a new Jodi Picoult book. Her new book. It's called By Any Other Name.
I just started it too.
And I'm loving it. I'm about halfway through.
I agree. If you're local, I know Hares and Hatters has it. That's where I got my copy. And I think it's super interesting. And for anyone who's interested, it's a take on if Shakespeare actually wrote his plays or if it was a female author. And it's a really interesting twist. So
yeah, I saw an interview with her, and she said that there's enough history to indicate that it likely wasn't him writing.
So interesting.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, once again, I want to thank you for being my guest. I hope that wasn't painful.
No, thank you so much. I'm floored.
Good. And I think one of the cool things about having this, both now on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts is that it's a lot to take in at one time. And so this is something that you can go back and listen to whenever you need it, just to remind yourself of just what a phenomenal part of your family and our community you are. So once again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being my new friend.
Thank you. First time we sat down, I said, I want to be her friend.
Yay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
We hope that today's episode helped you to recognize the extraordinary impacts of your small and simple acts of kindness. Your individual threads of kindness uplift, strengthen, and uniquely contribute to our beautiful community tapestry. Please take the time to visit us on Instagram at Sweetwater Podcast and at Kind Community and share your thoughts on today's episode. Thanks so much, and remember, be humankind.